On his first official visit to Ghana, President Barack Obama said it's time Africa replaces the culture of strong men with the culture of strong
what is important is to tell the truth.
Is it Honorable Malema?
We want to offer Honorable Lekota 8 minutes of the EFF, which is remaining. Is it allowed, Chair?
That is not allowed, sir. Please take your seat.
Okay, but can you
That
use
is not
your
a point of
power
order.
to extend his time, please?
No. Honorable
This
Lekota.
issue of selling out is very important.
Honorable Lekota.
The African people rose, and the world and history stood behind them. The English handed power to the African National Congress. But if you look at that closely, it was not to the African National Congress. No. It was to a section of people in the African National Congress. People who would be comfortable and happy to be in parliament. People who will not question why the people of Sekhukhune do not benefit from the platinum mines in their own land. It is for that reason that Chris Hani had to die. It is for that reason that Zuma had to be dealt with the way they're dealing with him today. I don't say he did not commit the crimes they say he committed. But Zuma is being dealt with because he talked of radical economic transformation. And radical economic transformation means that the resources of this country must benefit you and I. And for that, Zuma is going to pay. Believe you me, Zuma is going to pay a price. Because the English, in particular the English, are not prepared that you and I should benefit. Because it is not in their interest. They will go to war. The English will go to war. And that is why, politically, they're trying to take everybody amongst the Caucasians. They're trying to take the Afrikaners with them. That is why today you find the Afrikaners within the Democratic Alliance, something which was unknown to the Africans.
I want the President, because I want to answer some of the things he said to me. He called me by name. He called me by name. Chairperson of the Council of Provinces. Last week, the President was on this spot here when he invited me, among others, to join him. I don't know to what trip. I do want to say to the President today, I was a bit puzzled that you introduced Roosevelt in all of that you spoke about. I'd like to say we must come back to South Africa because I was never in the United States to struggle. We struggled here. And I do want to say to you, Mr. President, that we were invited on a trip of struggle by the preeminent leader of the students of our time, the late Steve Biko, who said to us that we must fight the struggle, and said that, and I quote, in case of danger or living conditions that threaten human life, we must accept life for what it is or not at all. It did not take very long, 2 years or so, because that was around 72. In about 1974, we went into detention, among others. And in the course of that, we had to respond to this challenge. And I want to say to you, you invited me last week. We had to respond to that challenge. Your invitation last week was late. The challenge we had to respond to was that time. And you, with us in detention, when it was difficult, you wrote to the special branch that we put communist ideas in your head. In doing so, you condemned us to the special branch. And I say, no, I say this to you. I say this to you
Order.
because the special branch rewarded you as they always reward their victims. And they sent you home. And we headed to Robben Island. You should have responded. This invitation that you are issuing on Friday, you should have issued it then. We should have traveled together to the island to serve years for the struggle of our people. I will not join you in the trip that you are suggesting. I will not join you because you made your choice then. That was the time the choices were made. I made my choice to go down with our people. You made your choice to go with them. Now you are inviting us to join you in the corruption of Bosasa, in the corruption of all of these things you've been doing with the others. I'm sorry, sir. I will stay with the people in Khayelitsha, in Chiawelo and Soweto and so on. The day we get out of there, it will not be to go to the flesh path of Egypt. It will be to go with our people when freedom is there for everybody. I thank you. I'm grateful you're a billionaire. Keep the billionaires and thank you for them. But we are not going to be part with you. I'm not joining that trip. Thank you.
President, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you because when they elected you in this illegitimate parliament, I was not here. But the majority of this parliament have agreed that they must proceed business as usual. I want to state very clear on behalf of the EFF that we are willing to give you a chance as a President of the Republic of South Africa, as head of state and government. We only give you a chance because you have not been personally found guilty of being a constitutional delinquent. Because we do not entertain delinquents. We deal with delinquents decisively, like we did before. It is very easy for a country to degenerate if you allow individuals to become constitutional delinquents. President, we want to say to you that you are not a king. You are a leader of the people. And therefore, you must never expect a treatment of a king. You must be a leader. You must welcome those who criticize you and always defend the right of those who disagree with you to disagree with you. You must not abuse your power because you think you are powerful like that. Comrade President, we listened to you when you were speaking because it was the right thing to do. We give you a chance to explain your plans. But the reality is that, President, you are not having any plan. That's why you came here and told us of job summits, because you are still going to look for plans out of the job summits. That's why you came here and told us about the issues of social sector summits, because there's no plan. You came here and told us about investment conference, because there's no plan. You told us about youth summit, because you have got no clear plan on how you're going to resolve a thorny issue of youth unemployment. President, you have no plan in dealing with collection of tax because SARS has collapsed. That's why you have called for the Commission of Inquiry into Tax Affairs. President, we are saying to you, you're doing all of this because you know that you will be a president for 12 months. You are effectively saying to South Africa, there's nothing I can do in the next 12 months because I'll be looking for plans from commissions. And after 12 months, I will be gone. Because indeed you will be gone after 12 months. President, you mentioned expropriation of land without compensation. And we all agreed. Actually, that was the highest applaud you got. I heard the leader of the opposition saying something else. Before I come to you, I want to warn him, the leader of the opposition, that your stay in the metros is going to depend on your attitude on the expropriation of land without compensation. And I want to warn you about that, because that's a fundamental issue which is going to make us fight with you. Because anyone opposed to expropriation of land without compensation is the enemy of our people, and such a person will be dealt with. Mr. President, the expropriation of land without compensation mentioned by you did not capture the headlines because they know you are bluffing. They know you are not serious about it. Anybody who is worried about investment in South Africa would have been worried when we mentioned the expropriation of land without compensation. But you told them, I'm just passing time. Don't worry, I'm silencing my opponents in the ANC. This cannot be an issue to bluff about. This cannot be an issue to pass time with. It's an emotive issue, and you only mention it if you mean it. It's not a matter that you can go around joking about it. There are no conditions attached to expropriation of land without compensation, because when they took our land, they never attached any condition. They just killed our people. There is a general degeneration in South Africa under your leadership. The cash in transit is uncontrollable. Why? Because you are weak, you are not firm, and criminals don't like weak people. You must take a firm stand and say, the day you produce an AK-47 against the police and the security, you will meet your maker. Because as government, we will have ceased to recognize your rights the day you take AK-47 on innocent people. Because our people are dying, the security is dying, the police who are honorable are dying. They don't get a firm support from your leadership. President, I came here and told you are bluffing about the land, and now you are wishy-washy and saying all manner of things. It's clear you are not going to expropriate land without compensation. But I need to tell you that we had issued an instruction in the EFF for people to scale down the occupation of land because we wanted to give you time. But since you are no longer clear, we have made a call, and we make it even here, for our people to occupy the unoccupied land. It is their land, because the ANC is not going to give them land anytime soon. So our people must continue to occupy land. This land belongs to us. And if the ANC wants to kill our people for rightfully claiming the land, let the ANC do so. You have done it in Marikana. Do it with the people who are seeking their own land. It is their land. They require nobody's permission to occupy this land. Mr. President, you launched the YES program, Youth Employment Service Initiative, but that was a copycat program of the DA, which is going to make black young people be stuck there for mere 3,500 per month salary. And when you compare that with their own white counterpart who are getting 20,000, it's not going to work. It has failed before. Treasury itself admitted that this program will not be successful. President, Honorable Mutwaledi is not here. The state of health is shocking in this country. Half ambulances in KZN, they are not working. Half ambulances in Limpopo, they are not working. Our people are not receiving any form of public health in South Africa. And we are saying this is a priority. The ANC should be able to pause and say, what do we do to save black and African life in particular? Because those are the facilities which are being used by our people.
And during that time, he was recruited by the regime, was taken to training for 6 months to be how to be a spy, and trained to through the ANC literature, so that when he comes to exile, he must look like a bright student who catches so quickly, and yet is being taught on the material is being taught here by the apartheid regime. Came with his wife. There's a long story about him. And the wife herself was sent So they had a marriage that was authorized by the police at the right time, a part of the cover. And was finally arrested and confessed. When he was detained, he asked to see me. And I saw him with the comrade John Lanza, where he was saying, I've written my confession, here it is. But I just wanted to come and talk to you. I so hated you. If I found you sleeping when there was no one, I would cut your throat. He said, it took me time to confess because I have been more loyal to the regime government rather than the ANC. But I thought it is important for me to tell the truth now. That agent knew a number of others who are in the movement because he was one of highly regarded spies of the regime. As soon as he did confession, he was poisoned and died. But he had given the list of others because he knew them. A worrying point is that one of our intelligence, which was still under the hands of the apartheid regime, conspired with two other intelligence organizations to do things in our country. And it means those who were negotiating with us, they were because we also know that at the time a decision was taken that some of the agents who had been operating, getting pay from the apartheid regime, that the apartheid regime thought that they were not known by the ANC. There was an agreement between the intelligence organization here and the United States that those should be taken with their files to them. But they will remain with us. And they remain with us. And they are among us. And therefore, they have their bosses. They are handled to do things here.
I think he is a pawn, and we've seen that happen constantly with black leaders in the DA. So once again, if I can evoke the words of the great leader Steve Biko, who said black people must stop being pawns in a white man's game. But there are so many black pawns, unfortunately, at the moment. I speak about Mamani as bulletproofed against blackness. That's how white he has become. But it's not only him. I see Cyril Ramaphosa, our current president, in the same light. I mean, he's supported by white people, and we have to ask, why is his support base coming from people who've never supported the ANC, but now suddenly they're supporting him?
Yeah.
It's of great concern.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting view, the fact that, you know, he was trained by the Manels in that law firm as a candidate attorney, becoming in his early 30s the Secretary General of the ANC, having not been a member for so long. In fact, he wasn't a member leading to that conference where he was elected, then leading the NUM. Then resigning from the SG's position and going into business, where he said he was now deployed to business. The question would be, who deployed him. In this book, and I want to be frank with this, your suggestion is that white people have sent the Cyril Ramaphosa to disturb the ANC. What evidence or what litters that? What informs that script?
Well, I don't say that categorically, but I say we have to question why he's not following the decisions of his very own people, the ANC branches, who are his immediate accountable people. Why is he ignoring all the very firm and very progressive resolutions?
Well, you pose it as a question. Your first
Absolutely.
question says, can Ramaphosa sing the tune of radical economic transformation?
Yes.
Your second question hinges on Marikana to say, when will justice ever come, and why Marikana had to happen?
Yes.
You know, those are questions that are dealing with the personhood of the president. My question is why? You know, what has he done, or what informs that script? What about him sets you on this narrative?
Well, I think that he puts the interests of white people before that of black people, and this is evident in the fact that he treats white markets, foreign markets, who don't give a damn about black people in this country. Actually, they just care about profits. He puts them first and foremost. It's as if they've become the supreme branch of the ANC. And on the Marikana issue, he has yet to visit the widows of those men brutally killed. But yet we see him dancing at white matric birthday parties. We see him embracing white people. And he's totally out of touch with the life of an ordinary black person. His decisions that he's making are very pro-white monopoly capital. And so one has to question what is his agenda and what is his mandate. But, you know, I wrote that particular article a while ago at the very beginning of his presidency, and I said, I'll wait. Let me not cast judgment. He's not my choice. I wouldn't have voted him in if I had a choice at Nasrec. However, let me see what his deeds say. And I can say 2 or 3 years later, he has done very little for the ordinary black person in the street. What has he done? He's and that's how you measure a president. What does he do for the material conditions of the ordinary poorest citizen in this country? And he's done nothing. And in an interview I did on Saturday, they asked me, who's the worst president this country has ever seen? And I said, I think it's going to be Cyril Ramaphosa, for the very reason that he's putting whites first. So what he's doing, he's in the curtsy, to me, of white supremacy. I mean, why is land sitting still in white hands? Why is the ANC not moving? And I think part of the distorted narrative we've had is that people have treated Cyril Ramaphosa as a messiah. But what has he ever achieved actually? He wasn't an A-grade deputy president. I can't think of any achievements, really. And now he's sitting in a presidential role. Why would we expect him to do a better job? So in a way, he's a media creation. He's not a man of the people. And if you think of comparing him to what I believe is a true leader, we could look at Winnie Mandela, who was broken by the media, but she was a true leader because she was made by the people. And that's a very big distinction.
Certainly things are not going right in this country. In the press today is the president's fight with the public protector,
Yes.
The purging of black executives at SOEs, load shedding is back, adverse findings against the president and Pravin Gordhan. Pravin Gordhan confesses to the existence and the creation involving himself of the rogue unit and the Zim flight.
Cyril Ramaphosa has been charged with crimes against humanity. He has been charged with theft. He has been charged with criminal acts. He has been charged with acts of war. And he has been charged. He is the true face of state capture, not Jacob Zuma. Jacob Zuma was the fall guy. I'm not telling you to support Jacob Zuma either. I'm just telling you the facts. If we think that Jacob Zuma took a great amount with the Gupta brothers, they're a drop in the bucket that Cyril Ramaphosa has used and stolen from his country. He's paid the judges, he's paid Raymond Zondo 50 million rand to throw the case in his favour against Jacob Zuma. The whole process was an unconstitutional process. I do believe that Jacob Zuma has to be held responsible, but I do not believe in the process that was followed, as the process that was followed was unconstitutional. Our laws in this country are only laws that pertain to the United Kingdom and the Roman Statute. They are not our legal laws. You must try and verse yourself on common law. Instead of going out and trying to learn the various laws pertaining to this government, try and verse yourself on common law and stand for your rights. And soon we're going to be having a global call out whereby there will be a military presence from all over the world. And no, it's not to come and shoot you. Those are the white hats. Those are the people that are coming in to secure your governments and your interim government, which, by the way, has been set up. A gentleman, Fani, a great friend of mine, has set up cases against the government, including the presidency. His documents, on Sunday we were together to go and see the public prosecutor. We got Democracy, which is another group which is doing very great. I'd suggest many people go and follow it. The name is True Democracy. They are investigating the monies that Cyril Ramaphosa has paid out to the various judges, the Supreme Court justices, as well as many other people, many bribes. And there is a great future coming. These prosecutions are not going to be prosecuted in our courts. They will be prosecuted in our country, yes, but not in our courts, because our court system has been bought.
Now, I was advised that I should perhaps not even dignify some of the comments that were made with any form of response, and particularly what Honorable Likota had to say. But against that advice, I've decided that let me rather set the record straight. Honorable Likota is correct in saying we were detained in the same trial event in 1974. Then I was 21 and a couple of months old. I was a student at the University of the North. I had then been elected the chairman, as we used to call it those days, of the South African Students' Organization branch, with Steve Biko and others, Bani Pichana and others, Harry Nengwekuru, and many others being the gigantic leaders of SASO at the time. And we got involved through a call that had been made to organize pro-Frelimo rallies. The chairperson of the Students' Representative Council, Sidibe, who was the president, rather, of the SRC, got deeply immersed in this, and so did a number of us. And following the pro-Frelimo rallies that we held, the then government decided to conduct a swoop on all of us. Now, my arrest was quite dramatic because Sidibe, the president of the SRC, had been arrested, and he had, we decided to march on the Mankweng police station, which Honorable Malema will be most familiar with. We marched on that police station as a student body, and during that march, the SRC went in, and some of us stayed outside. And they then decided that they wanted to have me arrested. They then said, call Ramaphosa in because he can shed light on whatever. And the SRC members, without knowing that this was going to happen, called me in And as soon as I sat down, they said, you can all leave now. Ramaphosa is now under arrest. And I was arrested, transported to Pretoria Central Prison, where I was in solitary confinement for a solid 6 months before anyone came to talk to me. And at the time, my father was a policeman. He was a police sergeant. And through his efforts, I finally got to see him. And he explained to me that, well, they say they've got a lot of things against you and all that. What did you do? And I explained to him. He said, my son, I understand. Then later they started interrogating me, which was quite vicious. I will not go into that. And the issue that they really wanted was to give evidence against accused number 1, Seth Cooper, Muntu Mieza, accused number 2, Tera Likota, accused number 3, and a number of others. And I refused. And they thought they would use my dad to put pressure on me to agree to become a state witness. I refused. I said, I will not do it. Then I was taken. I was taken to Silverton Police Station. And when I got there, my neighbor in the adjacent cell was another detainee, whose name I am not going to disclose because something horrible happened to him. And they had been working on him to also become a state witness. And he then, through talking through the wall, told me that he has finally agreed to become a state witness. And then I realized why I had been taken to Silverton. My dad came to visit me, and he said, they want you to be a state witness. And I said, Dad, I am not going to do it. I will never betray the comrades that I was working with. And if I did, where will I go and live thereafter? I refused. Now, having refused, my neighbor then went and gave evidence. He gave evidence against Tera Likota and all of them. And as I persisted in my refusal to give evidence, they let me go, but they brought me back and said, we still want you to give evidence. And I persisted in refusing. He gave evidence, the trial went on, it ended, and they were sentenced. And then I was released. Now, you know, when you deal with police, security police, there are 3 things that they want from you. It's either you cooperate with them, you give evidence against your comrades, or you become an askari and go and kill your comrades, or you become a paid agent. I did not do any of the 3 things that they wanted. Not at all. Not at all. And when they released me for the last time, they then said, we want you to work with us. And I still remember who it was. It was Major Haystack. He said, we want you to work with us. And I said, I will never agree to work with you and betray my people. And they said, we will come back to you. The uprising in '76, after my spell of detention, I then joined the Black People's Convention because university would not take me back. So I joined the BPC, which was a black consciousness-oriented organization like SASO, and we continued with the struggle. '76 happens, and on the very day the uprising happened, a knock at 3 o'clock at my father's home sounded on the door, and interestingly, there was a comrade of mine who was later killed by the Venda police. His name was Chifiwa Muope. We were friends at high school, and he had come to visit me. And on the 16th, they found him sleeping with me in the dining room. They arrested both of us, and he looked so much like Tsietsi Mashinini. And they immediately said, we've got Tsietsi Mashinini, who was leading the uprising. They took me to John Foster Square, where I was for another 6 months. And interestingly, Tera Likota, when I got into the cell, I told myself that I am now here for 5 years. Because earlier they had been threatening me with a 5-year, 10-year jail sentence. And I persisted in refusing to give evidence. And they said, you're going to be like Nelson Mandela, you're going to break rocks on Robben Island. I said, in the end, I would rather go and break rocks, and I will never, ever betray my people. And my father supported me in all this, notwithstanding the fact that he was a police sergeant in the South African police of the time. He supported me. And after I was detained in '76, I was finally released without any charge being preferred to me or against me. Chippewa Mwope was later released because they found that Chippewa Mwope was not Tsietsi Mashinini, and in the end, he was later once detained again and killed by the Venda police. Following that, then my journey led me into the unions where I organized workers. And I want to take time to explain to Julius, Honorable Malema, about the organization of the NUM, because that is another issue that has been raised in the past. And the question has always been, the NUM was an Anglo-American project. That's what has always been raised. And that story started being spread by some within our own ranks who had at the time been given the responsibility to go and organize mine workers. And because their approach had not worked, they then started spreading a story as they saw the NUM growing. Now, how did we organize the NUM? James Mutlatsi, Elijah Bahai, and a number of others, Paul Nkuna, bear testimony to this. We went into the mines, started trying to organize, and mine workers would not join the union. They said, you are insurance agents, why should we come and join the union? And the question they kept on asking, Honorable Malema, have you got permission from management to come and organize us? And we said, no. They said, we don't want to get fired, so we're not going to join your union. And in any event, we think it's an insurance company. And they kept asking me, where do you come from? I would say, I come from Soweto. They said, you are a skellum from Soweto, and we're not going to join this thing of yours. And our initial plans to organize mine workers were failing. And as we saw that they were failing, we decided that rather than organize them in the way, in the streets, in the corners, in the towns, in the buses, we should rather go into the fortress where they are accommodated. Because those days, mine workers were accommodated in fortresses which were impregnable, and you could not go in. And we decided, yes, to go to the Chamber of Mines. And we said, the Vihan Commission has now declared that black mine workers can join unions. We want them to join unions. Give us access, because we do need the access to organize them. And access had been given in a number of other unions. In the factories, offices had been opened in factory environments and what have you. So we said, like it's happening in factories, we want access in the mine hostels. Previous to that, the attempts to organize mine workers, Honorable Malema, had been to try and get them in buses as they are going home in the rural areas, and they had all failed. So we decided that we would take another direction, and we did. We got access, we started organizing mine workers, and they kept asking, do you have permission? We said yes. At the time, Anglo-American and Rand Mines were the only two mining houses that had allowed unions, their workers, to join unions. And naturally, the union started growing. And it grew by leaps and bounds. And I've often said to those people who say, you are an Anglo project, I would say, why would Anglo act against its own interests? Because it was Anglo-American which was most severely affected in the strikes that mine workers embarked upon. In 1987, they got the biggest brunt of the strike at the time. So the union grew, and not only did it grow, the NUM was the first union to adopt the Freedom Charter in our country. the very first union. And following that, the NUM was the biggest motivator for the formation of COSATU. And it was the biggest union in COSATU. Now, Honorable Likota and Honorable Malema, you raise these issues and throw around innuendo. You must realize how dangerous this is, like Dr. Motsoaledi said yesterday. The same accusation was made against Nelson Mandela when he was still in prison. Many people said Nelson Mandela was selling out. They said he was selling out because he had agreed to be separated from his comrades and was therefore in Polsmo alone, and he was being manipulated and he was selling out. That is the story that was peddled around. But when I met Walter Sisulu, the wise leading comrade of our movement, when I asked him about this, I said, how did you, as the elders of our movement, handle this? They said, we were never concerned about this. We looked at the character of the leader that Nelson Mandela was. That's what we looked at. And having examined his character and seen the commitment that he had made to the freedom of our people, we were least concerned about all that. Now, comrades and members on the other side, these accusations of people selling out have also led to the deaths of people, as Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi said in this very parliament. Now, Honorable Malema, you visited London a few years ago and said that Nelson Mandela was a sellout. And then there were reports, and those reports keep coming, and I was not even intending to raise it here. But I do so because we do need to deal with this issue because it's cancerous. A report that came out was that the EFF is an MI6 project. Now, I rejected that. I rejected that because I knew we were dealing with people of good character, that you would never go to that extent. And they keep coming with the position that one holds now. You keep getting all these innuendos, these accusations, and these suggestions. But in the end, you need to deal with the character of the person. Now, I have rejected those types of statements, Honorable Malema, because I look at you and I look at your character and your commitment to the people of South Africa from the platform that you now occupy. Now, it was O. Tambo who warned us that beware of the wedge driver. Watch his poisonous snake. These stories that are spread about people doing that and that are so dangerous. Nelson Mandela had to deal with this issue when he became president of the ANC. And he said, I keep getting all these reports. And he once said, I was his Secretary General, and he said, I get all these reports, and if I were to examine them all, more than half of the members of my NEC, you remember that, more than half the members of my NEC would be regarded as spies. And it would divide the African National Congress, and he added it would even lead to people getting killed. Now, let us be aware of wedge drivers. Let us be aware of people who want to spread poisonous messages amongst us. I can testify, I have never, ever been a spy. I've never worked with the enemy. All I've ever done in my life is my commitment to the people of our country.
On his first official visit to Ghana, President Barack Obama said it's time Africa replaces the culture of strong men with a culture of strong institutions. That time is now.